Hello and welcome back. I want to talk about an RTS that I only discovered recently. Yeah, I know, I'm quite behind on what's new and exciting. Almost 2 decades worth. But hey, better late than never. Dark Reign was developed by an Australian team called Oran Development. They don't really have a history prior to their first release Dark Reign in 1997, nor after, as this was their only successful known game. They pitched their game to the popular publisher Activision with a completely different title called Corporation Offworld. Activision would accept taking on the role as publisher for the game, but later they would come to agreement with Oran to rename the RTS to what it is known today as Dark Reign: The Future of War. Most of the gameplay elements remain from when it was first presented to Activision, as they were highly impressed with the unique RTS features it implemented. Before we get into that, I will try to give you the background story of Dark Reign to the best of my ability. It is a little more difficult, as there is minimal exposure to cutscene dialogues and cinematics. You essentially have to read the massive archive to be able to immerse yourself in the story. And it's not to say that reading to learn the story better is an issue. It's more on how they should provide pieces of script to slowly attract the audience. A great example that comes to mind is the Heroes of Might and Magic series. When a day passes and you reach certain points during a campaign, you are given part of the story to read. I did cover the development of the first 4 Heroes games on another video, check it out on the channel page. Now back to Dark Reign. You are one of the few inhabitants of the planet which was destroyed by a war between the Imperium, Earth's ruling power centuries ago that has decided to colonize planets due to Earth's overpopulation and demise, and the Freedom Guard, who were once the slaves of the Imperium that have been mutilated with DNA altering injections. Once you escape a disaster, a probe was sent to you that will give you an opportunity to travel back in time to save the planet and an important scientist who can help the galaxy free itself from the wars, hunger, and agony. You would be able to go back in time to stop the Imperium and Freedom Guard from destroying the planet, but first you must train yourself in each of the factions' warfare by playing their 12 mission campaigns. Once you are a well-experienced commander, you will face the rivals at the same time in a final campaign, where both must be eliminated for not only the planet's salvation, but the galaxy as well. A very interesting story despite being presented in a boring manner. But admittedly, there have been some successful games that don't exactly have the story laid out strategically. A good example in the RTS is Total Annihilation, and it is still one of the best RTS out there. Now getting into some interesting RTS aspects. First to note that is simple but I personally enjoyed is the interface. That looks similar to the Command & Conquer with the centralized building and recruiting, but it also used the Warcraft style building mechanism, where the construction rig unit must be used to build. I don't agree with the idea of the unit disappearing after building, but I enjoy the fact that I can have multiple structures built at once anywhere on the map. No area limitations like we see in Command & Conquer. The next RTS aspect that is an innovation that has strictly come from Dark Reign is the ability to have your units perform specific tasks automatically and giving them a certain level of AI. On the orders interface, there are 2 levels, the basic and advanced. With the basic orders, troops have 3 commands that include Scout, which has your selected troops travel the entire map, all while avoiding any conflict as much as possible, to the point where they will not attack back. This order is highly recommended for fast-moving units, or else the slow ones will be destroyed when they try to avoid and scout elsewhere. Harass will have them attack and immediately retreat, used well when you want to lure units out of the base. Search and destroy is the same as scouting, but once they find enemy units or buildings, they will attack until either the enemy is destroyed or themselves. This one is best used for the destroy all missions when you are having a hard time finding every unit and or building that needs to be obliterated. In the advanced tab, you are shown 3 customizable behaviors with 3 levels of intensity: low, medium, and high. Pursuit range will determine how far a unit will go to pursue enemy fleeing units. Damage tolerance, my favorite behavior, is when the units will decide to retreat to heal at a station depending on how much damage they have taken. This will save your units from complete destruction and therefore allow you to economize your credits. With the Imperium that don't have a portable healing unit, this behavior is mandatory for survival. Independence will determine how units will react to seeing enemies upon completing a task. There are some presets if you are not sure how to arrange the levels of these behaviors. Guard, which is mostly used for unit defense to attack while using little to no movement, and Pursue, which has them chase the fleeing units. If there is a certain preset that you have customized and find works best for you, you can save it as a default and newly recruited units will be subject to this default. I know what you are probably thinking, taking all that in was overwhelming, and so did I at first, but once I got the hang of it, I was able to play more efficiently and did not have to constantly worry about when I needed to pull back to heal. or to click multiple command points to have a unit scout on top of worrying if they were too deep into the enemy base and attack. It makes me think strongly why other RTS have not adopted these AI behaviors to help us as the player. This is my thought as to why. That I don't agree with but often hear RTS fans complain about in general is that when having too many gameplay automations, it takes away from the player's ability to do all these manual tasks such as scouting, harassing, and luring the enemy. In their eyes, these tasks are meant to be part of an RTS for the player, and to have an AI perform them instead defeats the purpose of micromanagement. To also mention that AI behaviors are not perfect and don't match human intelligence. Personally, I enjoy the fact that I don't have to frequently perform these actions. It gives a bit of a mental break from all the small situations that occur in an RTS. The next innovative feature is seen on the Paths user interface, where you can issue multiple waypoints for your units to reach. It can be traveled by your selected units in 3 forms. A one-way, often used to order a unit to travel to a specific destination because, for example, the subject will travel through a dangerous path by default. We saw this in Total Annihilation with the shift command, and I initially thought TA was the first to implement this, but it looks like Dark Reign has beat it out by months. The shift command in TA I think is easier to use by simply clicking the shift, and it is more intuitive because you can use it not just for waypoints, but any sort of task, building, attacking, and collecting. Two-way, which means that the unit will travel through all points and travel back through them in reverse to reach the original. Circular will mean the units will travel through all points and return back to the original point in one motion. These 2 forms are mainly used for patrol, which technically isn't the first time we've seen this, as I did see a simpler version in Warcraft 2. Nonetheless, the fact that you can save multiple waypoint commands is pretty impressive for an RTS released in '97. Multiplayer is present, which should be no surprise for the RTS at this point, with LAN of up to 8 players and their online servers for up to 4 player capability. Dark Reign did feature a construction kit where you were easily able to create your own maps with different terrain, units, buildings, features, and more. Same idea as Warcraft 2's map editor, and if somehow you become bored of the 20 preset maps that come with this game, you can make your own. The music had a strong presence of a war theme with frequently used drum sound, and it was well orchestrated. I was expecting more of a sci-fi post-apocalyptic sound like Tiberian Sun, but it was still nice. Now the part that I hate to do, but has to be mentioned, are some of Dark Reign's shortcomings. First that I found strange is the unorthodox menu screen. Like, I don't know what they were thinking there, but sticking to the standard would have been the way to go. This isn't something that needs any invention. In this RTS, it introduced a fog of war that reacts differently depending on terrain depth, which the idea seems great, but the game is on a 2D plane, so you can hardly tell the depth levels your units are on. There was instances where your guard tower or unit would not fire at a close range enemy that is visible, but according to the game's physics, the tower is not able to see it. The pathfinding and unit awareness is mediocre. When the enemies are firing at your units, instead of firing back, they would move closer to them, hastening their totally avoidable death. Commanding multiple units to an area sometimes has them walking back and forth in confusion, not knowing where to land as the allied units are in the way. I don't know if it helps that I played Red Alert 2 and Tiberian Sun, which are both known to have the best pathfinding for the RTS ever, right before I played Dark Reign. So maybe it isn't as bad for its time, you tell me. And the most frustrating flaw to this game has to be the enemy's AI advantages over you immediately in the beginning of the campaign. It does not seem to be affected by the same fog of war that you face. They know exactly where your buildings are located and attack on multiple fronts that you didn't even know they knew. They also react to the exact moment you launch an attack, as they are coincidentally there with many units ready to defend. It is one thing for an AI to have an advantage of performing multiple tasks at once where a human can't do, but to provide them even more advantages has you easily set up for failure. These were the only few issues I had with Dark Reign overall, and most of them were not drastic enough to take away from the amazing innovative features it transcended for the RTS picture as a whole. Dark Reign sold 685,000 copies worldwide, making it a big hit in Europe, specifically Germany, and its reception was equally as amazing, receiving no less than 9s out of 10. It kinda makes me wonder how a game this successful did not receive as much attention as the 2 big dogs, Warcraft and Command & Conquer, when it actually provided us RTS fans with some great innovative features before them. I had no idea this RTS existed until one of you recommended I give it a shot, which I'm glad you did, and I think I will title this RTS as the best of the hidden gems so far. That's it for Dark Reign: The Future of War. I didn't cover the expansion as I didn't have a chance to play it yet, but by the time this video is up, I'm sure it would be deep in it. So what do you think of my assessment of Dark Reign? Fair or not? Do you think that Dark Reign automatic unit behavior should be implemented in modern RTS? Or would you rather stick to the classic manual actions? I won't be covering Dark Reign 2 in the foreseeable future, as I want to take a bit of a break from the RTS. Yes, it's my favorite genre, but I do want to explore others, and this channel is still a work in progress. I'm just trying to search for the right identity to try to be both successful and create content that we both enjoy. Of course, you can always help by liking, commenting, sharing, and if you haven't already, subscribing. I do read the comments and do my best to fulfill requests and feedback, so if you have anything to say, let me know. Thanks everyone, and later.